What's up, everybody? It's episode 99. You believe it? We have one more episode left on this 100-day journey toward mental toughness training. Now, I think you're going to like today's training because it's an interesting look on suffering. As CrossFitters, we all have our share of suffering moments, especially when we go through some of those awful WODs. And I would pretty much say the average person has suffered a lot during their life. If you ask the average person, what does suffering mean? I would say 99% of them would say, excuse me, suffering is adversity. Suffering is the pain you get from adversity. Now, I like this term, but I think it's a little too general. I actually prefer the Buddhist definition of what suffering is because it goes more in line with what we are trying to achieve with mental toughness training. All right? Now, according to the Buddhists, their definition of suffering isn't the adversity itself. Suffering is the feeling you get when you get a sense of hopelessness and when you think you can't do anything about the adversity. So let me say this in a different way to emphasize my point. According to the Buddhists, suffering isn't the adversity. It's that feeling when you feel like you can't do shit or fight off or overcome the adversity. That's what suffering is, according to the Buddhists. I like this definition because it deals more with a lack of activity, and that's what most of us feel when we go through a really discouraging act of a bad situation. Now, I know when I was feeling mentally weak, I suffered greatly because I always felt hopeless, no sense of possibility that I was going to defeat the adversity. And I'm sure many of you guys feel the great sense of suffering too. But you don't have to feel that anymore. So today's tip of the day is going to be about how to rid yourself of the suffering and to live life with less suffering. Now, in order to overcome any adversity in your life, you got to truly believe you can overcome it. I don't care how bad it is. I don't care how long or how many years it's going to take for you to overcome the adversity or how much pain that you're going to have to endure in order to defeat the adversity. You got to believe in yourself. The more you believe that you have the potential to knock down this adversity, the less suffering you will feel in your life. But more importantly, the more optimistic you will feel. As we all know by now, the more optimistic you feel toward an adversity, the more likely you will defeat it. So the next time you're up against this great adversity where you feel powerless against, don't try to attack the adversity and go for that big home run. No, instead segment your action. Divide up your actions into little goals or many tasks. I don't care how insignificant or how little the act or task may be. As long as you're working toward the adversity, you will be making progress. By breaking up the adversity into smaller goals like this, you will develop your self-confidence. But more importantly, you'll start to develop your self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is when you feel like you're being successful in your task toward your adversity. By doing this, what you're going to find out that you're going to have just a glimmer of hope or glimmer of possibility that you can overcome the adversity. And when you're a CrossFitter or when you're mentally tough, that's all you need. You just need that small glimmer of hope, and that's when I want you to turn it on and go wild on the adversity. So start to change your task from something very small to take greater risks and take massive action. By doing this, you will start to develop a mindset that will start looking and believing that you could find and do solutions instead of somebody that's looking for excuses and is suffering greatly while you're trying to overcome the adversity. If you could do this on a regular basis, you are creating the right mindset to overcome the worst and your most horrible adversities in your life. That's the tip for today. And another tip for you is to buy my book. There's more tips like this on how to overcome adversity and suffering in your life with CrossFit and with your career and with your relationships. So in the meantime, check out my book, and we're going to be back tomorrow for the final episode of the 100-day project that we've started many months ago. So we'll see everybody tomorrow.